Hey everybody, it's your pal Val back with another video. I know this is supposed to be kind of like a daily video vlog, like that's how it was advertised. But it's I haven't posted it like almost a week and I can explain why. Um well basically a few weeks ago I was laid off and I had 2 week notice and I got to the week, where I had to just do like a ton of paperwork and follow up and more paperwork and follow up and related things. And it was just this series of concentric circles of like real world adulting stuff, lots of it. And I just wanted to focus on that. I didn't want to, cross the streams, as it were. I'm sure you can relate. And I just wanted to focus on real world stuff. So I did. And now I'm back. And though I will probably continue to focus on real world stuff, it was just a week where I was just like, I just want to focus on this. And I did. And so, and then yesterday, I took a trip to the city just for myself, not for any other reason, but just to do it, just to go back to the old haunts I used to go to when I was younger, more like Lower Manhattan, 14th Street, Greenwich area, Broadway, Lafayette, that whole thing. I realized that I hadn't gone there to actually hang out in like at least 5 years. outside of outside of traveling in thereabouts to like either go to like a job or to like go to like a doctor or something like that. I had never had the wherewithal in 5 years to just go there, at least 5 years, just go there and just hang out. And so yesterday morning, I was like, I have some time on my hands. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go do that. And I did. And I had a great time. I had a really great time. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome. Um, just walked down Broadway, Lafayette, to 14th Union Square, and you know, took note of like what stores are still there, like what places are still there, what places are not there anymore, and what new places are there. And I just had a great time. I had a great time, and I also went to do this really nerdy thing, where because I used to work in publishing, and as one of the things I used to work in, and I was really wanted to check out the state of just the magazine industry in 2025, and what better place to do it than like really like just an epicenter of like Manhattan cool and everything, bookstores, everything. And so I went there just to check out. I mean, that was one of my goals. Really, was just to check out the magazine stuff, or whatever. And what I discovered is that, yeah, there's very few magazines that are under $10. They call it 9.95, so it doesn't sound as terrible as 10, but it's basically very few magazines at all under $10, and those are just like the regular magazines, like the ones that you all know and whatever. And then the like anything with like a niche, like your special interest, like art, spirituality, I guess music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's got to be like $15 plus, and like $15 to literally like almost $30 for a magazine. Which I could only find these magazines at Barnes and Noble. That was the only place I could find them. Uh, all the smoke shops that used to sell the magazines, I didn't find any of those in my trip. I didn't find newsstands. There were barely any newsstands that sold anything paper. I think I passed by one that had several newspapers. Um, and yeah, that's the only place I really found magazines was at Barnes and Noble, and they were all like super expensive. And I was particularly interested in art magazines for myself, and there was like a couple that I really wanted to get, and they were like $25 a pop. And I was just sort of like, well, that's a book, really. I'm investing in a book, and I'm going through the magazine, like the $25 magazine. It's like, I can see this on the internet. I can see this on the internet. I can see this on the internet. And so, but yeah, like I was like willing to even like just buy like a fashion magazine, like Vogue spring fashion issue. Like remember those issues with like gigantic, thick Bible-sized magazine full of like fashion photos, and I was like, even if it's $10 or something, like I will whatever. And like the Vogue, like the fashion magazines were like all anemic and thin, and they're $10, and I was like, no. So yeah, the only magazine I bought was this magazine called Juxtapose, which I used to read all the time when I was younger, like a young brat, and was very influential to me. Juxtapose, and this was $10, which is actually really cheap for an art magazine. So I was like, well, and it was relatively, it's not that anemic in size. It sort of just, I was like, I'm just gonna buy this. I know I'm gonna enjoy it. And apparently, I think Juxtapose is going out of business, which is not funny at all. That's actually incredibly sad. Um, I would hope they have an online presence still, but yeah, that's the state of the magazine industry. And I also used to work a lot in the comic book industry, which is also a realm of like floppy pieces of paper stapled together, glued together. And so there's probably some cross referencing there in terms of industries and where things are going. Because like I went on the train coming, going and coming back this trip, and like nobody had a magazine. Nobody had anything. There's a couple people. Like, I mean, going to the trip, I sat next to somebody that was reading Kurt Vonnegut. It's an actual with an actual godforsaken book. And I didn't seek them out. Like, I was like, it was this empty train. I was like, oh look, like, there's the person reading Kurt Vonnegut. Fellow human. And like I walked over, and sit right next to him, makes them really uncomfortable. And I'm like, Kurt Vonnegut, huh? I didn't do that. It was just purely accidental. Um, but yeah, like there's a couple people reading like the paper books, but everything else was on the phone. So I guess, and why I'm interested in magazines, I like to make mixed media art and collage. So basically, I'm largely looking for magazines to tear apart and use in my art. Um, I take the printed form on various fiber papery things, and I reconstitute them as art. I'm like prehistoric AI. So that's really what I was doing. So I was just looking at all those magazines in Barnes and Noble, like wondering. Clearly, they're not selling. Like, where do they put them? Like, where do they take them when they don't sell? Do they just, ship them, send them back to the publisher? Does it go to like, like a paper recycling plant? Is there a place where I can buy them in bulk for a cheap price so I can tear them all up and make my art? I don't know, but these are things I think about. But anyway, I had a lovely time in the city, and I need to do that more often. And I am going to do it more often. I started hanging out like in that area of Manhattan like when I was like 16 years old. And I was just a rotten kid. Like in the very early 90s, like 1990, 92, 91, 92, 93, like this rotten kid. And I want to do that again. I'm still a rotten kid. I'm still a rotten kid. So I like to do that. So that was something that happened. And I think like I think kind of related to this topic, and you'll see why in this roundabout, circuitous manner. I want to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story. I think it's March 26th is a day that I call Owl Day, and it's just a day. It's a holiday I invented for myself. Owl Day, and every year I don't celebrate Owl because it's not really a day of celebration, but it's a day of like, and I'll explain to you why. And I could have done this actually. It's the 22nd. I should have done this on Owl Day itself, but this is just the preamble. You do it on the day because it's gauche. I'm gonna do it now. So here's a story about Owl Day. So basically, on the night of March 25th, 2015, I had a dream. And it's starting to sound like a Twin Peaks episode, right? Like, I had a dream 3 years ago, and that's why we're all going to follow my crazy ideas. Tibet. No, but seriously, I had a dream, and the dream was just simply telling me, well, if you go into the city today, you go to the city today, there's going to be an explosion. And that was the dream. It was little this hearing that without any fancy. There was no frosting. There was no sort of like Cirque du Soleil things in the background, or any sort of like Carl Jung like symbolism. Like there was a fish and there was Christ, and it was like, oh no, it was just literally just told me, just said, you're gonna get a city today. There's going to be an explosion. And at the time, I was working a job which was remote-ish. I only had to go into the city sometimes, once in a blue moon. And guess what day I had to go into the city? The March 26th. That's the day I had to go in for this marketing training thing. And so I'm waking up the morning of March 26th, and it's like I had this dream, and I'm like, I ain't going to the city. I don't care if I need this job, I ain't going, And my husband at the time was, it was just like, oh, it's just a dream, Valerie. It's never that. And I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to go into the city if I have a dream like this. Because like I was commuting to the city when 9/11 happened. So like and and this is like 12 years after. Is that 12 years after? Well, it's at least 10 years after 9/11, right? This is going on, like, this is, and I'm like, I want to go to see it today. I had to stream it. But I needed the money. So I went. So it's just like, I'm on the train, like, I'm just like, and so I'm going down, and the job is like in the late 30s, at 30 Avenue of Manhattan, if you're familiar with Manhattan at all. And it's like, this is strip, and I'm going, heading for the job. And one of the things I notice is that there is this gigantic, as I get to approach to the job, there's this gigantic like street art, literally like in front of, to the side, more like in the gutter of the street itself, to the side of the doorway to the building I'm working in, and it's a gigantic owl. It's a gigantic owl. It is this gigantic fucking owl. It's like, like I don't know, like 10, over 10 feet tall, like 15 feet tall or something like that. This gigantic owl made out of like tissue paper and sticks, and it's just there as street art. And I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, that's so weird, And so like I'm like, to go to the marketing training thing. I'm done. Good. Heading home. Heading home on the train. It was the Q train. I'm sitting there, and there's been no explosion. So I'm like, there's been no explosion, because that was just a dream I had. And dreams, they are, symbolic stuff, right? Like they're not real. That's the stuff of David Lynch movies. So I'm like, I'm like sitting there, this like going over the bridge, like nothing happened. That's great. So I go home, open the door, and my then husband is like sitting like in the side couch right next to the door. And like I open the door, and he's sitting there tense with his hands like this and his face kind of like, and I'm like, what? what? He's just like, and he's like, did you see the news? And I'm like, no, I did not see the news. I just came home from work, and apparently, and this is not funny at all, this is horrendous. This is just, there was an explosion in Manhattan that day. There was. But had nothing, it was nowhere near me. It was in St. Mark's Place. And there was a sushi restaurant that had sort of like, I think with like faulty wiring or pipes or something. I think it was a pre-existing problem that they had issues and stuff, and it exploded. And it leveled the restaurant, and it quickly set fire to the rest of the apartments and stores fronts surrounding it, and it was horrendous, and I think a few people died. And it was so the fire had spread so quickly to the rest of just that whole thing. They eventually had to just knock down that whole half a block, full block. I don't know if they knocked down the full block of storefronts, but it was a gigantic chunk. they later had to do. And so yeah, there was an explosion. But that's it goes deeper than that because this was a sushi store or sushi store. This was like a restaurant, right? This is a sushi restaurant I used to go to all the time. That was my number one destination when I was that little rot, not little, but like when I was that rotten younger kid, like just going into Manhattan, going to Lower Manhattan, going to St. Mark's, going to Greenwich Village. That sushi place was like my number one place that I would go. I would meet friends or go by myself or whatever. That was the place that I always go to. And it was gone. I mean, it was effing gone, right? So, and but not only did I used to visit that sushi place, but there were two other stores around it that I used to go to all the time. It was like that whole corner of that block, that it was like a destination for me. Like on the very corner they had this famous thrift store called I think Love Saves the Day. Um, which was just like, I mean, my gosh, I was going there like since I was, yeah, like in my late teens and stuff like that. And then right above the sushi place, they used to have this um, sort of like art, uh, art toy, anime toy store called Toy Tokyo, like literally right above the sushi place. Like you would finish the sushi and you just go up the steps and you would go there and I would go. And that was like, this is something I did for years and years and years. Like that was the hub for me. And it was, not only was the sushi place gone, but Love Saves the Day had closed down and was gone years before. And Toys Tokyo had since left or relocated, but the sushi place was still there. And now that sushi place was gone, and because of all the damage from this explosion, the whole the whole thing, the whole structure was now completely gone. Like I remember visiting that area like a couple like a year or two later, and it was just like a lot. Like it was level. Like it's something really weird to see in the middle of the city, kind of just like that. Like it was just a very weird thing. And so anyway, yeah. So there was an explosion in that day, and the last weird point is that I went to this that day I had gone to like this marketing training thing, right? And what was the topic of the marketing training thing? Like we saw this slide video presentation. What do you think the topic was of it? It was sushi. It was sushi. It was explaining these new like marketing methods, with the online stuff, and they used sushi, selling sushi as a metaphor. So that was a really weird, effed up day, and so ever since then, when that day comes around, I'm like, that's Owl Day. Um, yeah, and so this bring it all back to like I guess the start of this video, just like going into the city and yeah, yeah. So I don't know, man. I Was it just coincidence? Was it something more? I don't know. But yeah, that's something that's happened to me, and it's like has other things like that happened to me. That's yeah. So anyway, that's long story short, yeah, Owl Day, and then we just had the spring equinox, and and Easter is all the way like towards the end of it's all the way into like April. Like it's very. I don't like where Easter is placed this year. It's just it seems like it doesn't want to be near like the pagan holiday Astara. Like it's just like no, we're not the same. We're not the same. So they really pushed it all the way to like mid-April, and I don't know. But yeah, that's what's going on with me. I still have to finish narrating my novel Conspiracy, and I have to show you more of my toy collections. And just to figure out more of us what the content and stuff I'm doing here. Why am I here? But there will be more videos, and that is a promise. So good talking to you. Hope you're all well, and I will catch you next time. Bye.